I was a florist for many years, and selling flowers kind of brought me to this point, I think. Prior to that, I'd had house plants. They'd get spider mites. I'd try to grow cactus. I mean, I was always trying to grow something. But being in the flower industry really brought it to me. I realized how easy it was to plant a seed and to bring life. From that seed comes life. It's my mantra, and it just kind of melded into me. When I have less responsibilities to other people, this becomes my responsibility, and it's very grounding to me. I've learned how having your feet in the soil so grounding, and I would not be this person that I am today without this garden, and COVID would have definitely had impacted me in a negative way without this. This has definitely saved my life, and I know it saved Joel's as well. We eat out of this garden, and it is just keeping us grounded. It is absolutely so important. I want everybody to know how to grow something so they can see caring for something, and that return, it literally has the word ground right in it. You're in the ground, grounded. It's so, I don't feel upset. I don't feel depressed. I don't have any of those ill feelings, and I am so sad for those that do. The street was not well traveled. It's a dead-end street, and people now on purpose walk by here and they bring their children. And I love that they bring their children and show them how one day there was a fruit and then that fruit is gone, and then how one day there were plants and now those plants are gone, and then how they return again. It really is a great learning tool, and I think it's the kids that I really enjoy the most. I love the zucchini. I love the zucchini to make the zoodles out of. Okay, I love to shred it, stir fry it with the spices that I have here, and just eat it with butter, olive oil. It's fantastic. That's kind of my favorite thing. I miss when I don't have zucchini in the winter. So I have a 3-year-old grandson who has been raised in this garden. He will constantly be asking me, can we go out to the garden, Nana? I have a little watering thing where it's for the birds. It's a bird feeder kind of like, and so I fill it up with water, and he goes over to it and he plays with the hose and plays in the water, and I trust him in this garden. He knows how to walk on the walkway. He knows my other grandson not so much, but he grew up in this garden too, and he doesn't have as much of an interest, but definitely the 3-year-old is completely enthralled by it. So it's not for everybody, you know, but yeah, he's very comfortable in this, and I let him come out here barefooted, and he's just a little nature kid. Super cool. Okay, so yes, so when they need tomatoes, spices, zucchini, guess who they call? When they need green onions, guess who they call? I have a connection with my family that way. We may not see each other for weeks, but trust me, when they need something, they know they can get it from me. So that's kind of nifty. So I make sure that I leave things that do flower to seed, so they reflower again. Flowers are the key to bees. Bees are the keys to keeping things healthy, and of course maintenance. You definitely have to spray and mist your plants down from time to time. You definitely have to be connected. You have to make sure the soil is balanced. A sick plant will bring bugs. If your plants are healthy, then you won't have bugs, and the bugs that you do have will be easily managed. I introduce things like, and I'm glad you asked this, I introduce things like lace wings, and I buy lace wings, and they're in this they're like these little rice pellets. Like, I can't explain it. They're just tiny little seeds, and I put the packets all throughout the garden, and they multiply very quickly, and they come at night, and they are amazing creatures to manage your bugs. So I use biological stuff like bugs bugs kill bugs, not poison. Poison kills people. So I use healthy plants and predator bugs to keep everything in line. I've used poison. That was a mistake. Poison takes a long time to get out of your soil, and wherever you use that poison, the soil remains sick. And I had discovered that the hard way. Planting things repetitively in the same place, that's also another problem. So you have to move your plants around. You can't just plant the same thing in the same place, with the exception of, and I should add, tomatillos. They do well in the center of that area, and they are gorgeous. They just do well right there. But I think I haven't planted tomatillos every year. It's like every other year I get tomatillos. So I think that's it, just changing things around a little bit, you know. You know, everybody needs a hobby, and LMV has become a family. The garden is my life. My hobby is sharing the garden and its successes. So I love Sacred Heart. I love LMV. I don't know what I would have done without them. They got me through one of the toughest times in my life. I don't share that story often enough, but it definitely came to me at a time in my life where I was very alone. And I have now a new social life, and I love being loved, and who doesn't? And I love being accepted, and who doesn't? And I feel accepted and loved, and it's been very rewarding, and I'd be sad to leave it if I had to. Hi, I'm Lisa Landry. Been with Mesa Verde and Sacred Heart for 4 to 5 years, and I'm an urban gardener. First, may I start with some peppers from 2 years ago, and they're still producing. Down below, I have the new peppers that I added to this from this year, and they are also fruiting. Keeping them all contained, I feel, is easier for harvest. Easy access is super important, otherwise I won't pull the fruit and eat it in time. We're just going to move pan over really quick, and this is the tomatillos, also in a cage, but allowing a lot of room for growth. The tomatillos will spread right out and cover this whole garden. As you can see, it's taken up the whole middle part of my garden. The 4 o'clocks are just for looks. Easy harvest, easy seeding. They spread very rapidly, sometimes problematic. And I have one cucumber, just real quick. I don't think it's fruiting yet, but the bananas are providing some love, and that is a lovely banana fruit. Producing some fruits up there. And I do have a little baby cucumber. There he is, super happy. He still has the flower on the end of him. So everything basically in here is from La Mesa Verde, except for the celery, which I plant and I leave it for flowers. It collects hoverflies, and hoverflies eat bugs. So I let the celery go ahead and seed out, and it really minimizes any bug problems I might have. This is actually something I bought on my own. Started with a starter. It was a little baby like this, and now it's a pineapple. I think it's called pineapple sage, and it's quite lovely, quite large. Does drink a lot of water. I have to water it very often. And then over here we have more La Mesa Verde plants, basically tomatoes. Mostly in here, just all tomatoes with a little bit of onion from last year as well, and then some new chard from this year. I tried something. I tried to plant a tomato directly in the ground. I don't know how well it's going to do. It seems to be struggling a little bit with the curly leaf, maybe from heat. But other than that, the leaves are clean, and there seems to be no septor or any kind of disease on this, so I'm pretty pleased with the results. And again, that just went straight into my ground, no ground preparation whatsoever, but does drink a lot of water. I decided to put my basil up here so the snails don't get it, and I'm having a lot of success with this here. I'm able to pick off these flowers. As I pick those off, more leaves will come, and the plant will continue to produce. No snail damage to this. I'm very happy with its location right here. And this is a spice row on this side. All I have is I have some nice basil here. This is a different type of basil a friend gave me. I believe I planted all of this. There's sage, rosemary, and thyme, and basil. And when friends come over, I break off. I just walk down this aisle, break them off a bunch, tie it up with hemp string, and give them as a gift for their travels. It's quite lovely. If you want to look up, I just noticed I have a new banana flower which came in last night. And I want to add that this banana tree was planted 3 years ago, and it was this size. This is the size that it was 3 years ago, almost to the day. It was this size in a 5-gallon bucket. So yeah, the problem with bananas, if there is a problem, and I'm learning how to grow them, is that I didn't know how fast they grew, and I didn't know they were invasive. They are invasive. This will take over the entire yard. I have no idea yet still how to maintain it. So if anybody has any information for me on how to do a banana, send it my way, because I'm just letting this go wild. And this is quite interesting. We have another banana row. These are all new plants from Sacred Heart, with the exception of the volunteer pumpkin, which is because I planted a pumpkin in here and let the worms eat it. I got a bunch of them, passed them out to friends, and let a couple stay. And as you can see, I dragged up the pumpkin up, and it's definitely being held up nicely. So I'm pretty pleased about that. And that pumpkin's gonna grow really big, and it may eventually break off, but for right now it's a great experiment. We'll see how it all turns out. We got a few tomatoes. You can see I'm watering them nicely. No bottom end rot. Super important to make sure that they get watered every day. Now basically, as you pan out over the garden, I just want everybody to know that there's no fences, that I keep this completely open. I want everybody to enjoy this garden. I want people to talk to me and say, where did you get this garden? How do you do it? And people do walk by all the time, and they ask me questions, and I always give props to Sacred Heart. None of this would be possible without them. And it does take a lot of time. By the way, that's kale. This is like 3 years old, that kale, and it still produces lovely. I harvest off it regularly. Kale soup becomes a really delicious thing. And this sage, I'm letting this go wild. I just love how it smells, and it's good to break it off and pass it to a passing by client, potential client, friend, family, whatever. And people just love the whole, I give you this for nothing at all. They love that. And we have these repeat flowers right here. We got that from 4 years ago from Sacred Heart. Planted one in the garden bed, and then it spread out, and I let it reseed, and I let it overgrow, and then I shake all the seeds out, and it's just spreading everywhere. This is also something that came from seed from Sacred Heart, and the seed just keeps on coming back. And that's why I let those plants just kind of go. I don't deadhead them. I don't take the deadness off. Let them dry naturally, spread the seeds out, and then they come back. Super pleased. This cotton tuft, I guess it's called cotton tuft. I'm not even sure what it's called, but it attracts hoverflies as well. Hoverflies are great bug management. They're great. They do so much work. Tomatoes are about ready to blow up right here, and then my bougainville. And if you want to pan out for the whole entire garden area, this whole 1,300 square foot area, I put together with another company to plant California native plants that don't take any water at all. And this was all green grass a couple years ago, just green grass, plain weeds. That's all it was. And now we have 1,300 square foot of just what I call just simply paradise. I'm so pleased. And I'm really pleased to have an opportunity to share it. And anybody wants to come by and have some sage with me, they can. I really am impressed with the banana and how it's producing these flowers. I do some things called Korean natural farming, and I know that Carlos knows how to eat these banana flowers. I personally like to chop them up, put brown sugar on them, squish them down, and make ferments and feed it to my plants. So I don't do bottled nutrients. The only bagged nutrients that I ever use is a thing called BioLife, and it's actually basically it's just a dry amendment, and it has a full spectrum of goodies in it, and I kind of sprinkle that around with my worm compost and my regular compost, and the combination of all those things brings me a lush, beautiful garden without any bottled nutrients at all. The comfrey, now this is from Alaska. It was sent to me as a root. It produces flowers, which we have it does produce flowers. Super nifty. It's a very prickly plant. It has a lot of health benefits, but what this really features is I can break it up, cut it down, and it'll grow back in a matter of 2 to 3 weeks. This whole thing will be full again. So I feed this to my worms, I feed it to my compost bin. I also make ferments with this as well, and that's with the breaking it up, putting it in a bowl. I could demonstrate if anybody wants to with the brown sugar, and you smash it down, stir it up, and it starts to liquefy. You cover that with a loose toweling, and then the liquid will be used as fertilization for your garden. You can foliar feed, or you can feed directly to the soil, but it just produces so many good things for the soil. It's an absolute must if you're going to be growing organically. And it's a beautiful plant. Drinks a lot of water, very invasive. Got to keep it inside a container, otherwise it'll take off like the banana tree has here. Banana tree has just as many uses as that. And I want to make point that something that grows very, very fast, you can translate that in Korean natural farming with ferments to give to your plants the same thing that that plant does as it's growing. The simplicity of that is key. If you pick flowers first thing in the morning, you make ferments with that, it'll also produce more better fruits and flowers for your plants. So whatever the plant does, you can mimic that and give it to the plants. It's a wonderful procedure, so simple, so easy, and it's something that I'm driven to share with everybody. Okay, so some of the things that I think are important to know is that people decide not to garden because they don't have full sun. They feel like, oh, I must have full. You don't. I'm proof to that right here. This banana tree really literally covers so much of the afternoon sun. So I get morning sun, which is great for the plants. I can water them in the morning, they drink it up, and by evening they still have a little bit moisture left. This is basically in partial sun. As you can see, we're in full shade 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's a pleasure to be out here working from 2 to 5, which is nice. I can be out here in the garden all day actually and not die from the heat. The banana does shade, and so you can grow in the shade. That area that I showed you over there on the third bed, it's mostly in the shade. It gets a little bit of morning sun, and the comfrey's the only thing that's probably full sun all the time. She drinks the most water. So being in partial shade also enables you not to have to water as much. And that's probably why I'm so successful with the garden, is because I can miss a couple days and it's okay. But I don't use the irrigation anymore. I hand water, spend as much time personally with the plants as I can, making sure that I'm checking them every day for any kind of stuff. But I could leave for 2 days and it would be fine. I'd worry, and I don't do it much because I want to make sure they're okay. But for the most part, yeah, things stay here all season long. I occasionally will clean out this whole entire bed, but I have kept the sage for the longest. I think the sage is probably as old as the kale, up to 4 years old probably, which is quite interesting. I think that you don't have to clean out the whole beds, you don't have to till the beds, you just have to add worms and maybe some dead pumpkins and let them do all the work, and then you'll have pumpkins the next year and you'll have healthy soil, because really the worms are the master gardeners. I'm just here to assist them into getting from one place to another. And I think the more worms, the better. And you know, it's kind of fun. I have wasps, and I see them right now coming out in the shade. They don't like to be in the sun very much. Yeah, they're pretty big actually, and they come out and they do a lot of work for me as well. I don't shoo the wasps away. They take away the caterpillars that are bad for the squash, and so I welcome them. I just work with them, and I see them busy right now. The wasps are coming out, the ones with the long legs, and they go slow, and that's a honeybee. So here come the bees. The bees are coming in the afternoon. They like it better when it's not so sunny. It's easier for them to collect their pollen, and I find that super interesting. I've learned so much in just the past couple of years. I thought I knew everything, but I'm still learning every day.